Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another episode of the Tradie Business School podcast, the only podcast you'll ever need to grow and scale your trades businesses, help you getting off the tools and getting more time back. My partner in crime today for this episode is the wonderful Louise Ledbrook, been organising me since the dawn of time. Today we're here and we're going to talk, it's early on in the year, so we're going to talk about planning. And I know I've heard Miranda say it before. What's the 5 Ps? Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. That might be 6 Ps now, but might have thrown a couple of extra in there. But ultimately, planning is so essential in how to, I guess, set yourself up for the year and make sure that your performance is not piss poor. But firstly, welcome back to the podcast, Lou. Wonderful to have you on as always, to see your smiling face. So how's things?
Thanks for having me. They're great. I've been planning for the year, so looking like a good year ahead.
Excellent. Now, I thought it was good to talk to you about this because, as I said at the start there, you've been helping me get organised since the dawn of time. And I guess I'm going to be a bit vulnerable on this podcast and share with people how poor I've been at planning. It's still not my strongest suit. You know, I get up in the clouds, I get all visionary. I'm like, oh, yes, all these amazing things that I'm passionate about that I'd love to do. But then when it comes to the execution side of things, mapping that all out, getting it strategic. We just talked to the team about some different tools today about how to get these things actually happening. You know, so there's high level strategy stuff, but then, you know, in the grounds, tactical implementation and execution. So, I mean, what would you say? I guess we've worked together for many years now. What would you say are my biggest pitfalls? Please do not hold back. I think this is important for everyone. You can really throw me under the bus right now.
Well, I won't be too unkind. Look, I think the thing is, and this is a benefit and a good thing. People like yourself, entrepreneurs, business owners, and sometimes even like a lot of high-level executives, they're quite visionary. You know, you see these big pictures, you have these dreams, and the tricky bit is getting down into the tedium, what feels like the tedium for you, right? So for people that are visionary and big picture, it feels tedious, it feels boring, but you know conceptually you need to do it. Like, you know, the planning leads to success, but because it feels boring and tedious, it can be quite challenging. And I'm sure from our working together, that is part of the reason that you sort of struggle in a way. You know that you need to do this. You tell people they need to do it. And it's not that you don't do it, but you would much rather, your happy place is up there going, I want to do all these cool things, and I want to share it with the world, and I want to change the world. But then you need some support and some guidance, I think, is the important thing to help you in those spaces where it's not that planning isn't your strength, but doing the things that you don't love is hard at any point in time, right? And so when you see that as a visionary of a business and you go, I need to do the plan, I need to get down into the detail to be successful, I need some support to make that happen. And you do that, right? So you use me and you use people around you to help you then go and do the planning and do the things that you know will lead to
like the word
success.
used. I think we say lean on.
Work with, whatever, leverage, whatever it is.
Leverage, yeah.
You know, we'll use it like a tool. I mean, not nice to say you use a person, but you work with a person, you work with a tool. These things that will support you in being successful in these things that you don't love doing. And
it's been such a, I guess, an enlightening process going through planning and understanding, you know, where I need to play, you know, where my zone of genius is and that sort of thing. And I think, you know, we done a podcast previously on the difference between abdication and delegation. And I think this is a tricky tipping point around planning, because when it gets into the nuts and bolts stuff, the real delivery of the plan, it does get boring. You know, building systems and processes, and this is something we take the clients through as well. Systems and process, it's not the most, like, some people get lit up by that, and I'm like all for hiring them and getting out of their way. But there is that fine line between getting out of their way and just abdicating versus saying, okay, you love this stuff. I'm just going to like fill your boots with, systems and processes that we need to build and that sort of thing. But, getting that, and it's so easy to just hands off it because like I don't enjoy it. It doesn't light me up. Like the end product lights me up of all those systems and processes and the plans. And this is probably like a high percentage of entrepreneurs and high-level executives, like you said, they play in that space. They can see the vision, they can see the way forward. But getting all the pieces of the puzzle or the parts of the machine, I guess, that is the business in the right place is so critical. So I guess what would you say would be the number one thing that I guess has been my downfall with planning over the past 8,000 years? What feels like we've worked together now.
I hope it hasn't felt like that because you work.
No, like I mean that in a good way.
No,
like,
I know.
I mean, actually, how long we've worked together, like it feels like I've known you for far longer because of the working relationship we have built and how much I've been able to be vulnerable with you. And I think that's one important thing with building, an amazing team is being able to share with your team when things aren't going well, and you probably see me at some of my darkest hours, where I've been like, hey, like just shit feels like it's going sideways all the time at the moment. So what are the things that I guess you've observed? And I guess what are the things that have helped get me back on track in particular? Because I think this is probably something that applies to many people out there.
Yeah. Look, I think one thing is consistency is key as well, and trying to build that into your day and identifying when it's fallen away. And you do that, right? So you're like, I know that I haven't been doing my priorities every day. It's fallen away and things haven't gone on, things aren't on track the way I want them to. Having that process in the first place. So seeking out those processes that work for you to consistently put in place every day. And they should be, so if you're visionary and big picture, they should be like the simplest thing on earth, like no overcomplicated systems. You don't need like the fancy thing that has 17 different categories you got to tick off every day. It's like top 3 things you got to do today. Like,
but they're fun. They make that stuff exciting. I love all the colors. I love all the lists.
But that's exciting until you have to use it every day. Like the first time it's exciting and you play with colors and you set it up, but then it becomes every day. It's like, hang on, I got to change all the things. So it's like, all right, what are you going to do today? What are the 3 things? Write them down.
I think you've actually stumbled on and just talking about this stuff, it highlights these things. Like one of the things that derails my planning is distractions. Like, and you've just like inadvertently highlighted it there, like how distracted I get because I'm off chasing the shiny object. I'm 100 miles ahead 100 miles an hour when I'm going ahead in a direction, and you're kind of the person that jumps in front of me, going, whoa, slow down. What about this? We've got to do this. So distractions, I think, is a really powerful thing to, identify in the first place, but then refocus continuously. Because I probably could have done 30,000 different things with my life by now, but to really drill down and get laser focused on 1 or 2 key things and play in that zone of genius has been paramount to actually achieving things.
Yeah. And there's 2 things there. One is the plan is the thing to bring you back, right? So if you have a plan, if you don't have a plan, it's kind of like, where's the map to get back on track? So if you're driving along with your GPS and you get off track, it tells you how to get back on track towards your goal. Same as your plan, right? So you might go, oh, shiny object, and you'll run over there for a second. Then hang on. Let's go back to the map. All right, the plan says go this way. And so that can bring you back, which is really important.
Yeah, I think that really helps with decision-making process as well.
Absolutely.
Like, is it on the map? Is it on the plan? Are these shared? Like if you were to look at it like a journey from point A to point B, you have probably scheduled stops that you will call in and you'll have your rest breaks or whatever. But when it comes to planning, are these scheduled stops? Are we going to go and do an event? Are we going to go and joint venture with somebody else? There's all levels of complexity there, but yeah, I think that I think it really helps with the decision-making process. It sucks too, though, because it's like I've made this decision to go down this path and it's like yeah, but I mean, the amount of times I've probably said that, yeah, but that's a really good opportunity over there. But,
Yeah.
being able to pull that back. Now, I think you said there were two things, and I
Yeah.
railroaded you off at one.
No, that's all right. I think the other thing was that I've actually kind of forgotten what it was, but but it is about
distractions, right?
Yeah, I know, right? But it is about bringing you back, like you were just saying. Then the two things that will help you make decisions to come back is your goals, right? And so your plan is to lead you to your goals. And so anytime you have to make a decision, is this going to lead me to my goal? Is it going to take me off my plan? Okay. Is it then a good decision? And actually, the other thing I do remember now was you saying staying focused on one or two things, right? Because when you're also visionary and you have lots of ideas, like I have a million ideas a day, but I know if I try and focus on those, then these things don't get done. And if I can focus on just one or two, then I'll actually get to that goal. If I'm trying to focus on 7, I'm moving like a sloth towards 7 goals, and I never feel like I get there. And so it's super hard, right? You can probably talk about how hard it is, Adam, to really stick to 1 to 2.
Yeah. Like I try and look at it. The best analogy I've come up with mentally, because I love analogies, and obviously people listening to a podcast being able to visualize stuff, and hopefully the editing team can come up, insert some crazy thing here. But it's like a checkers board, right? I can't remember what the dimensions. I think it's 8 by 8. But if you put 8 checkers along, and then you had 8 moves, right? The goal of checkers or chess or any of those kinds of games is to get from one side to the other, right? It's no different with planning. The goal is to get from where you are to where you want to go. And obviously in checkers, we want to go from one side of the board to the other. If you take 8 moves and you focus those 8 moves on one checker, you're going to get to the other side within your 8 moves. If you focus them on 2, 3, 8 checkers, if you focus it on 8 checkers, you're going to move them all up one level, one board. And I think this is the thing, like when you get that laser focus and you focus on one thing and achieving the objective of that, because the objective is ironically to get across to the board, to get to your goal as fast as possible. Yet we then focus on all these other things and create this complex strategy on how to get there. Now, look, some things require a bit of complexity and they require some strategy, but when you can just pull everything back and just go, but the scary thing is, right, it's that lack mentality. If I don't have all these plan B, C's, D's through to Z, then what happens if plan A doesn't work? And I think that for me in the early days when I was distracted by a lot of things, it was the fear to go all in on that one thing, that one checker, and run it straight up the board in, knowing that it might get obliterated, it might get taken out in the process.
Or FOMO, like that fear of missing out on all those other possible opportunities. And it's not to say that they're not great opportunities. It's that if you went and looked at that opportunity, then you're going to miss this one. So I think that's the important thing is it doesn't mean it's bad opportunity. It just means it's not the right time for that opportunity, because then you're going to miss out on this other thing. And so, yeah.
The thing with those opportunities, right, is they often appear like the right opportunities at the wrong time, but it'll always feel like it's the right time. But I think now with hindsight, looking back over things, the commitment to executing and completing one task at a time, it's so counterintuitive, right? Because we're always trying to juggle things, but going and doing that one thing would have yielded so much greater results. And and that's the thing is I can say that with confidence, because when I have done that, it's been a far greater outcome than when I've kind of had my focus diluted. So
there's so many reasons why that we won't go into the details. We can do that in another podcast. There's a lot of reasons why that chopping and changing dilutes the quality of the outcome as well.
Yeah. So I guess we can talk about this because I know you love planning. We talk about it for hours, but limited time. What would be I guess the couple of top tips that you would talk about for prior planning and how to make it prevent piss poor performance? How does it help? and what's the kind of outcomes that I guess it prevents?
Yeah. Well,
use me as an example if you like. I don't.
I mean, what it prevents is it prevents you from getting distracted. Well, it helps you. Like, you have to also control yourself a little bit. It helps you from being distracted. It makes sure that you are taking a direct path to your goal as well. I think that's important, because if we come up with a goal and don't have the plan, every day we're just hoping that we're moving towards it.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a way for us to know for sure that we're moving towards it.
I think that's really important. I use the analogy, like if we were parked in your driveway and I said, let's go for a drive, straight away, your first question is, where are we going?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. We're just going for a drive, like drive. And then you go into this whole quantum type environment. I've got to tune into my intuition. Do I turn left out of the driveway? But if I was to say to you, let's go for a drive to the city, straight away your brain starts planning. Now, you might have a bit of a map which way you would go. I would have a bit of a map and a plan which way. And ultimately, we would both end up in the city somewhere. Now, and this is the thing with planning, right? The more specific, the more laser focused you get. Like if I was to give you a street number, an address, a building, a floor level, and a room number, like it becomes ultra focused where we're going, right? And then how we get there is not as critical because we're all navigating towards the same area. And let's say we both went in separate cars, getting there is always, how we get there is less relevant than the destination itself. So
but the how, right? Having a desired how, like an intention of how you're going to get there. And I think the important thing with the plan is just don't overcomplicate it. And so, because as soon as you do that, you get stressed, you give up, you walk away, it becomes too hard.
Overwhelmed.
So,
there's another
you get overwhelmed by the plan. And so you don't have to come up with like the full plan on day one, like sit down and just work for 5 hours and come up with the plan. You've got to come up with the next few steps ahead, right? And you need to come up with what's the right duration for you? 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 90 days. What is the right duration for you to plan ahead? And then you plan again, and then you plan again. Because depending on the activity that you're working on, in 4 weeks, the decisions you made over 4 weeks will then inform the next stage of the plan and the next stage of the plan. So I think don't get caught up in, I need 1,000 tasks to get to the goal today. That's not how it has to be. But you need to know where you're going, and you need to know tomorrow the steps you're going to take that's going to directly lead you towards the goal. I think that's the most important thing. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't make it confusing.
The old KISS principle, right? Keep it simple, silly.
Yeah. And use one of my favorite things, which Adam, you talked about earlier today with the TGC team, was the estimate to complete, right? So when you work out the steps you need to take, have a crack, like you're not going to get it 100%, but have a go at estimating how long you think those things are going to take you to do, because then you're setting a realistic expectation. Because if you create 10 tasks that you want to do in the next 4 weeks, you estimate them out, you're like, it's actually 6 weeks worth of work. You've at least set the expectation. You can readjust and replan.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the key things that you gave me over the years was just that initial time estimate, because the amount of times that I'd be like, I've done my planning, but I'm completely overwhelmed. And you're like, how long are well, let's have a look at the list. There'd be like 5 tasks on it. But each of those tasks like take a day each.
Yeah.
And it's like, So I think, like you said, the top kind of couple of tips, keep it simple. Try not to, don't get distracted. Use that plan as the kind of matrix for making your decisions. And then, estimated time to complete. How long is it going to take you to do those tasks? And then allow yourself a bit of a buffer too, because there's nothing like allowing yourself 2 hours to do a task and having, just 2 hours to do it. You want to create those. That's probably one of the biggest things, just building in buffer time, which is something that we need to rework back into my calendar now. So
I think also it's not a tool to beat yourself over the head with when you don't meet the plan. Like, I think that's really important. It's a guide and it's helping you lead to this goal every day. But I don't know any business where stuff doesn't come up sometimes daily, sometimes, weekly if you're lucky, if not daily.
Oh, look, I think there'll be thousands of tradies out there listening to this now going, comes up, but by the hour for me.
By the hour, you're on site and something happens.
Phone rings, something doesn't arrive.
Yeah, something wasn't delivered or whatever. And so
definitely
you just readjust. I think that's really important. It is then you go, okay, how do I readjust my plan? It's a tool. It's not something that I'm meant have to meet every day. That's not what it's designed for.
It's a guide only. It's not a stick to beat yourself with. Yeah. I mean, you're going to end up a lot closer to your target if you've got an idea where you're aiming for in the first place. So I think that's about all we've got time for today. Probably went a little bit further over than what we would have liked, but I hope it's been amazing for everybody out there. If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please do not forget to like and subscribe and share it with a friend that could use it. If you want to get in contact with us for sitting down and doing a plan, working out a strategy for the next 90 days or longer, please email us at inquiries@tradiebusinessschool.com. And don't forget, join the free Facebook, Tradies and General Contractors Global. In this free Facebook group, we go live every single week with free training. There's always something new, much like this podcast, but often we've got tools and templates that we hand out in there for free. So that's all for today. Thanks again for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. Cheers.